Hey y'all! I've been a bit in a sewing slump. Sewing slump is kind of like a reading slump, like after you read a really great book and after that you just can't continue on with anything because either it won't be as good or you're so emotionally traumatized that reading anything else just is not something that you can handle. Since my Darkling 1950s cosplay, I just haven't been feeling sewing or crafting or anything like that, so I just took a break. While I was taking a break from actually sewing items, I wasn't taking much of a break from planning things to make. And that's how I ended up going on Etsy, and I was searching for 1920s slips, chemises, just anything, any kind of base layer that would be worn underneath dresses. Also on Etsy from Depew Patterns, I found the same exact pattern for this, and it's a PDF pattern, so I printed it off. I'm hoping that this is a quick little project that can get me back into the swing of sewing and maybe lead into a bigger project or a more complicated 1920s dress or project. It's not the end of the world, but I definitely printed this out wrong. Normally, it would all equal a rectangle. I'm diagonal, and I started to think that I just was missing pages, didn't print pages, but that's not true because this part matches up right there, and then where am I? This part matches up over here. So I'm going to have to start cutting this out and remember this tiny little bit if I need it, and that tiny little bit continue over here, and not to just crumple them up and throw them away. Oh. So every time I do a French seam, I have to bring out the seam ripper because the first one I do perfectly, and then the second one I start acting like I'm sewing a regular seam and just forget everything. So I have to fix that real quick. Alright, so my camera died as I was making this atrocity. I should have been making it about this big and this wide, and instead I figured I would make a nice box-shaped pocket to show everything. I don't know. Either way, it still works with the way that this wrap dress works. You just can see more of the inside. so not really a big deal, but still a bit embarrassing. This is a wearable mock-up type piece. I'm learning how to make it, and instructions are like 4 lines, so that's what I'm working with. And sometimes when I just get in like the zone, I just do stuff like that, so that's fine. I learned my lesson now, afterwards, and I'm gonna keep going, and I'll wear it with this. I mean, what does it matter? Meanwhile, I was trying to figure out what to do with the hem and around the neck and armholes, and I was going to just get some binding and bind it off, like the example I saw on Etsy, but then I remembered that I had this fabric my cats are laying on. This fabric, and it must have just been a remnant because I have just a little. So what I'm doing with this is I'm going to attach it here and then kind of fold it over as a lace binding itself around all the edges.